This will probably be my shortest video. There have been people who have suggested or just said, like, hey, like, how come this game doesn't have Loadless? Or they at least ask, does this game have a Loadless? And it's kind of hard to get all the reasons out there, like, why we don't have it. I mean, a lot of console games don't. But, like, the thing is I kind of wanna, but it's just, there's too many obstacles in the way. And this video will explain why. Does it have to say more videos in the corner? Is there any way to... Oh, okay, it just disappears when you unpause. Okay. So, why would you want a load remover? Well, this game has variants with loads. You know, the fastest version of this game is on Xbox, NTSC Xbox. In fact, PAL has slower loads. Granted, it already has a slower paddy wagon, so it wouldn't fully fix the problem. But yeah, so even just for one console, it'd make a difference, because, well, then everybody would just have the exact same loads as each other. It doesn't matter if you're using a fucking Thompson Xbox that has like 10-second loads when it's supposed to be like 6 seconds or 5 seconds. You know, it wouldn't matter. Or you could even have some like super busted fucking crazy brand new factory sealed Xbox with like an sealed copy of this game. But like, it would just have the exact same loads. Granted, if the drive is bad enough, he'll struggle to even just open the menu and you'll just lose time from that anyway. But still, generally, like, my Xbox has, like, average loads. So, you know, I'm not complaining about this or anything, but there are a couple people, I think, like, Latte and, like, Oopsta. I think, Bogey as well. Like, some people have slightly faster loads than me. And all throughout no pause storage, you know, it might be saving, like, 2 seconds over me. But there are people with genuinely bad Xboxes, and if we had some reliable former load remover, then we'd just be getting rid of the problem. It's not really a problem on my end, but it's, you know, we do have a, so I've looked at some loads before, and some people have some pretty terrible loads. So, you know, making everything fit, well, yeah, why wouldn't we want that? Especially for PAL players, it would at least make things a little better. Or if they have a bad Xbox, and at least they can still compete. You know, removing variants, how could that be a bad thing? But you will probably quickly see why it's an issue. This game would be very hard to make a load remover for. Very hard indeed. It can be a little hard with console games, but some of them not at all. Well, it'd be an auto splitter, basically. Some games just can do this really, you know, Super Mario 64, I think, obviously, it just uses, like, screenshots. When you go to, like, open a door, for example, like, Mario opens the door in the same way every single time, so you can split on the door if you wanted. You know, on fade outs, it doesn't really matter, you know, you just need to be, like, look for a specific frame of a fade out, which you could easily do, and it just splits. Or even just grabbing the star at the end of a run, the giant star, after beating Bowser in the sky. This game, well, we're getting to it, but the primary thing, obviously, would just be removing these loads. However, that is already posing a challenge. So, this game is 480i by default, interlacing, not progressive. Now, what does that mean? It means that the frames can blend together. So, unless your capture card supports some sort of de-interlacing setting, for example, now when I start my run, it just immediately goes to the loading screen. However, on interlacing, there is a good chance that you'd see a blend of this frame and this frame together, and it's possible that the auto splitter would not be able to pick that up. And keep in mind, again, it's interlacing by default. And my capture card does not have a de-interlacing option. The only reason why it's not an issue here is because I'm using a soft modded... Keep that in mind for later. I'm using a soft modded Xbox. And because I'm using component cables as well and just some application stuff, basically I'm able to force the game to run a 480p even though it's not designed for it, to make it look a lot better. So it's just, you know, for the stream, just making it look a lot better. But, so I would be able to use an auto splitter, but we don't even know how hard it'd be. It would definitely be harder. We don't even know if it'd be realistically possible. You know, and if people can't do it, then that already poses a huge issue. Also, I should say another reason is that we'd have to... Why it'd be bad is because we'd have to retime, like, every single run on the boards. And there's a lot of fucking runs. The only way we wouldn't have to is if we just said fuck it and just gave all runs from now on, like, a huge advantage, like a few minute advantage, especially depending on the category. But I just don't feel like we should do that. I mean, I know we could have a variable that's like, you know, with loads, yes or no, but like, I don't know. I feel like at that point it would be such a long project. It would take so long. Also, another issue is that this loading screen is weird. The game sees this loading screen as one frame, and that could potentially cause problems. Because the game only sees it as one frame long, even though all this is going on, it's only considered to be one frame, and we don't even know how it would react to that. Maybe it'd react to it fine, but I feel like it'd probably pose issues. And also, it's like, what do you even use here as like a visual indication of when the load starts and ends? It won't end at the same time every time, again, variance. And a lot of the time it will freeze just before, so you can maybe detect, like... I don't know, like... Again, it's just... Already you can see why it's at least slightly more problematic compared to the average game. And here is another very big problem. So these cutscenes can be skipped like instantly because you can just hold a button for them. It's these cutscenes. In-game cutscenes. Okay, so you'd be able to skip a cutscene, like, I think from exactly after a second it plays. So you should say, oh, well, if there's human skill in, like, you know, somebody could skip a cutscene fast as somebody else, then obviously that should be kept in the loadless timing because it's a skill thing. But what you're not thinking about is that it isn't just about that, it's about how long it takes for this cutscene to process, to even start. I don't know how quickly it transitioned from this to this, but it might have been slow. There is variance with how long it takes for in-game cutscenes to load in the first place. So, how is that going to work? Again, well, interlacing issue, but I'm probably not going to bring interlacing up for the rest of this. Otherwise, I'll just be repeating it constantly. The actual, again, then how is this going to work? Because it was stuck on this frame for a while, and all it takes is for somebody to just not hold a button here to skip her the right frame, and then it won't even know what to look for, unless, and again, like, the capture card could be, like, really dark, or sometimes when a cutscene starts, like, it has more stuff loaded in than other times, and it's like, where do we even start? And then you could have it just be, like, when it detects anything from here, it needs to wait until exactly a second in to be skippable. But I just don't think that'd be consistent. And again, here's another cutscene. This cutscene varies quite a bit, and it makes this trick, like, I mean, it doesn't really matter. This, actually, yeah, so just ignore what I just said. But yeah, like, this cutscene will take a while to process. So how should it be done? Like, should we try and make it so that we get rid of all variants? I feel like that would be debatable because it would be a challenge. It might not even be possible. And if it's not possible, then what's the point of having load remover? We're not even removing all of the variants. And it's not like we were even talking RNG. This is just like some random thing. And it probably kind of low-key does depend on the disk drive and the disk. And then it's just an issue of like, you know, is there a line that we shouldn't be crossing? I feel like it'd be debatable on like what we even should be doing. And with the context allegations, I will say I don't know if there's variants with like dying and respawning. If there is as well, you'd probably want something for that. Now here's another one. I think Quackity accused him of stealing his idea in Minecraft or something. Like, what about instances of gameplay where like we literally can't do anything? Stealing his you know, like this is when you can start moving around in the menu, this frame. But again, this takes sometimes extra long to process too. What do we do about that? And I'm not even done, right? A lot of people don't know this, right? But you see, look at the chest in the bottom left, right? Of the gameplay. You can see it's moving around. Now look at this, right? Look. It's stuck for several frames. The reason why is because it's trying to process the next screen. And in case you're wondering, yes, that has variance too. And it's not going to be the same every time. We can't just rely on like, oh, we'll just wait for this chest to be on this specific frame. It doesn't work like that. It depends on how fast you skip the fucking... not skip the cutscene. How fast you warp to the next... to the level. That is variance. Do we do something about that? How do we do something about that? Can we do something about that? We don't have this game's source code or anything. Like, I don't even know how we go about doing it. If it even is possible. And again, even if it's not possible and we're just like, alright, we'll just do these loads. It only lasts a frame, interlacing, what is it looking for? It's just a mess. And this whole thing carries on to just the entire run. But the video does not end here, although the, bulk of it's already been explained. There's some other issues as well. Like, the auto-splitter function, like, auto-splitters automatically have load removers in them most of the time. If we use an auto-splitter, I mean, then it'd be a question of how does the auto-splitter, like, actually work? Because what if you need to reload a level? Does it automatically split for you? Like, that's kind of cringe. Have you seen the SM64 auto-splitter, right? How many times have you seen somebody in, like, 16-star, like, fuck up the, lobby backwards long jump, and then, like, they kind of, like, accidentally go through the door? Not the 8-star door, I mean, like, the castle door. And then, like, because it goes black, the game splits, and then because they reset, the game, the auto-splitter automatically detects that, and then it fucks up their golds, and then they have to remember what the gold, that could potentially happen with us. Something like that. Maybe not to the same extent, but you get what I mean? It'd just be, unless we just don't have an auto-splitting function and just use load remover, which would be possible, I suppose. But yeah, now we're getting into the other thing with this, is that it's not even like... Well, there's two more things. The first thing is that if we want to remove a bunch of variants, why don't we just play on hard drive? That requires a modded Xbox, but again, how would this load remover even work without using progressive scan, which you literally need to mod your Xbox for anyway? I mean, maybe we could get it working anyway, but regardless, instead of having to worry about disk drives, we could worry about hard drives. And, all Xboxes have at least 4 gigabytes of storage in them. So, and this game is like 800 and something megs or something, so, easily fit it in. Squeeze it into your hard drive after modding it. Modding your Xbox is basically objectively good anyway. It's a little bit of a not really complicated. You have to like buy a compatible game, and honestly, like the entire game list, you wouldn't buy like any of those games normally, but most of them are cheap on the cheaper side. Then you need to buy like a 2 GB USB thingy. That's like 2.0, and it's gotta be kind of cheap and old, sort of, 2 GB or lower, or it might be 4 GB, but maybe, I don't know. Just do 2. Then obviously you need a PC to like do stuff on. You need to like do stuff in a program, like convert your USB stick, download some files, but it's not that hard. Then you need to buy like a third-party Xbox adapter. Like you gotta buy like an Xbox port to USB adapter so that the OG Xbox can like read the USB stick. Basically, it's kind of weird. It's easier than it sounds, but it's still like not super easy or anything. But yeah, you do that, you install the soft mod, and then you either put in a copy of movie and burn it to the hard drive, or you FTP to, you connect your PC to your Xbox using like FileZilla or something similar, and then you can like get the game on there. Either one of those two things works. You could even burn movie to a disk if you have the right type of disk, and then burn that to the hard drive if you really wanted to. So obviously that has the benefit anyway of like you don't necessarily need to buy the game, although you do have to buy modding tools, but that might, depending on where you live, that might be cheaper than just buying the game. It means PAL players can play on the NTSC version just fine. You can do that with disc as well, but not if you're trying to force progressive. PAL movie converted to NTSC, like it will run at NTSC kind of, but it'll be all fucked. So you need to use interlacing, and it's cringe. And your capture card or your HDMI converter or whatever you're using might not like that. My OSSC doesn't like it. PAL games being converted, like it depends on the engine as well. Battle Movie, Scooby-Doo, Incredibles, like those games, like on PAL converted to NTSC, do not like the resolution change. But if you played on hard drive and it was just NTSC from the beginning, then you could just skip that issue entirely. Obviously, then you can also use, like, practice mods and stuff. There are some tricks that are just not really worth learning unless you have a practice mod, so we are getting to the point where you kind of, for world record level, kind of low-key need hard drive for a couple categories anyway. It makes practice more efficient. I have this game burnt to hard drive so that I can just practice the game without deteriorating the condition of my disk drive, so that it lasts as long as possible, and the loads are faster and stuff, and I don't have to worry about, like, lag and shit. So yeah, like, modding your Xbox is practically objectively good, and again, if you have just, like, some really old, horrible disk drive, then it doesn't even matter because of hard drive. Hard drive is unofficial, granted, but loadless is also kind of an arbitrary thing in the first place. I mean, hell. Well, hard drives have their own variants as well. Basically, you could buy the first ever OG or the last ever OG manufactured, and the very first one could have, like, there's a few models for hard drives that they used, but they're all just placed in random Xboxes. So the very first one could have the fastest loads, and the very last one could have the slowest loads. That is entirely realistically possible. There's like an equal chance of you getting any of them. So at that point, when you buy a 2004 or 2005 disk drive, you don't even, like, it most likely has average loads, and if it doesn't, you might be able to clean the Xbox or something, and then it does have average loads. With this, you could just buy any Xbox, and then it could just have bad loads. You buy another one, it has bad loads. You buy another one, it has bad loads. Like, they have variants anyway, and I don't know what the time difference would be in a full run. Maybe like 15 to 20 seconds and no post storage. But, like, it isn't even fully fixing the problem. Now, cutscenes will load at the same time nearly every single time, if not practically every single time. But there's variance in between the hard drives anyway. I have two main fast Xboxes. One of them has the fastest hard drive possible, and the other one has the slowest hard drive possible. You know? And I got the crystal, the one with the bad loads, first for hard drive. Also, disk drives are not at the point where they're dying just yet, except for like Thompsons and stuff. If you just get like Samsung A or Hitachi, and like the Xbox hasn't been used to death and it's not like dusty inside, it'll have like pretty average loads probably. And they will last for a while. We will need to switch the hard drive eventually, but it might be able to last until like maybe even another like 10 years. Whereas hard drives could last like 40. But yeah, we will need to switch the hard drives eventually, but we might as well enjoy the benefits of disk drives now. You know, not being arbitrary, not having to force people to mod their Xbox. You know, things like that. Another thing as well is a hard drive would kill lag, and I'm not getting into a huge discussion about lag, but lag is considered to generally benefit this game, and hard drive just can't lag at all. Only disk drive can, and that's the other thing about a loadless. You know, at that point, if we have loadless, most of the benefit of that would be preserving lag, and lag has variance in itself, which I actually okay, so I should actually go back. A really good example actually is BBBH.
Yeah, it's easy.
But then with Disco Skip, it's just one of the clearest examples possible.
Gifts and stuff.
So obviously, you know, the inputs that you wait for a bit, and then you know, with the you don't just do it immediately. It's a timing thing, but you do select start. This has variance. We have found it can vary to the degree that it sometimes depends how far into the music track the game is before you can even like to even get consistent lag. You need to be in the same. So I don't know how my slide jumps were in my PB, but if I fucked them up by a few seconds, that could potentially like. It is possible to get such little lag that you just can't do anything with it. You don't get a buffer, and it's possible to get so much lag that it fucking eats inputs, which is ridiculous. And this is quite rare, but it could potentially be determined by how bad your movement was or how bad your slide jumps were. If they might have even been perfect, and it might have happened depending on where you are. You know, 3K or BBBH or Nadal or Men or anything like that. Again, quite rare in the grand scheme of things, but it feels plentiful with how much we lag. It's like almost guaranteed to happen like once in one of my streams, or maybe like once every stream and a half or something at least. Where it just like fucking practically does the equivalent of eating an input. But again, lag is generally considered to benefit the game. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do very cool and base things like this. I like this trick, it's best. Yeah, just like we call it sponge glide. I know Battle has sponge glide, but I mean, what else are you gonna call this? We can't call it guitar glide clip because we already have that, and it applies. The old guitar glide clip still exists in certain categories, so we need to call this one something different, which means it's gonna be called sponge glide. Because what else are we gonna call it? Oh god, I forgot that happened. Okay. So yeah, I've probably gone the point across. The TLDR is that we want it, but there are a lot of issues with it. Oh wait, I forgot to say one more thing. It's not even perfect in the sense of like, even if we could get it working as perfectly as we want, and you know, to preserve lag and to just make everything all great and fine and dandy in the world, it's not even fine and dandy because, right, what that is actually doing is fucking over certain versions even more than they already fucked, right? So GameCube and PS2 get a huge glow up because the loads no longer mean anything. It's great. Obviously, you know, and GameCube has a faster paddy wagon, so in like 100%, it actually can kind of go toe-to-toe with Xbox. However, well, Xbox still has like those plank lag clips and buffers and stuff, so it'll still be faster, but still, GameCube can absolutely compete. PS2 can too, but you might as well just play GameCube, especially because of Dolphin, so PS2 doesn't really win in this, because even though it technically gets a huge buff, Dolphin exists, so... And GameCube's faster. So... PS2 is not really a winner. GameCube's a big winner, and GameCube has infinite load, just a very rare chance that on a loading screen just infinite load and the run's just instantly dead, so... You know. That's a thing. What was I saying? Yeah. Oh yeah. GameCube is a big winner, but GameCube's not even, you know, half the levels play at like fucking 30 FPS as well. I just feel like shit, and like, it looks like shit, and it fucking sounds like shit, and it plays like shit. And even though it wouldn't be affected in the, like, you know, the long loads wouldn't truly mean anything, I just don't want to fucking sit through that. I like, sit through all those damn loads. Luckily, GameCube wouldn't actually be faster, like, in a proper, like, RTA realistic setting. So I guess it doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, I forgot one more thing with this, just like a small thing. Just another thing that adds to, like, the variance I was talking about.
10 songs. Sometimes do.
Upgrading has variance with, like, how long it takes for the cutscene. Yeah, how long it takes for the cutscene to, start loading. That's just another small thing. Just add into the pile. Like, so, okay, so PS2 doesn't really matter, but if for some reason your PC's horrible and they only have a PS2, yes, PS2 technically does get a dub, but Xbox would still just be better. GameCube gets a big glow up, but it's still just, you know, it's still pretty much just better to use Xbox realistically, but still, you know, GameCube could theoretically compete, which would be nice. However, one console that takes a huge loss, and this really does matter, is 360. 360... Okay, so 360 versus OG, what is the difference? OG has significantly better lag tech. It can do buffers, while 360 realistically can't. It can do lag clips quicker and way more consistent. Well, on 360, a lot of them are consistent, but they're a lot harder. Especially certain ones, whereas on OG, they're all just not free, but they're, like, easy. And they're faster to set up. Additionally, OG's Paddy Wagon is faster than 360's Paddy Wagon. Why? I don't know. It just is. Then, right? The final difference is that 360 has faster loads. And, you know, 360 is a good option for beginners. Intermediate level doesn't really matter too much. The high level is when it really starts to matter, when you really want to get off 360. But even in the intermediate level, you begin to feel the downsides of 360. And keep in mind, well, you know, let's just rewind a few seconds. What did I say? 360 has faster loads, and in a discussion talking about Loadless. Oh, I see the problem now. Or you might say, oh, well, what's the problem then? OG is already faster. Why does it matter? Mindy skip. Yep, Mindy skip. Obviously, Mindy skip is only possible on English Xbox. That'd be another benefit to a hard drive, by the way. Like, on a foreign console, you could literally just, like, FTP the American version. Anyway, yeah, that's the problem. You know, early powers, all extras, no pause storage. These categories do Mindy skip, and 360 has the advantage of loads, and then, wow, it's just gone. Now, this isn't going to make a gargantuan difference, but this is going to make it even harder to justify playing 360 at the intermediate level, which can make it difficult. You know, it might make people feel like, it would be kind of ironic, right? Because the whole point of this Loadless thing would be to, you know, to make it as fair as possible. but then we'd be pigeonholing people even more into getting an OG as fast as humanly possible. That kind of sucks, doesn't it? Because the 360 sold extremely well. Most people have one, and honestly, sometimes you can find them cheaper online, secondhand, cheaper than an OG controller, and you might just really hate the OG controller and really like the 360 controller. You can buy an adapter, but they're expensive, so you might just want to, use the 360 controller. But yeah, no. You would feel the need to switch even faster, and that sucks. Like, that actually sucks. So, I think that was everything. So the TLDR is that it would be nice, but first of all, we don't even know to what extent we should be removing loads, whether it should just literally just be like the loading screens, or if it should be all load variants. And even if we do, I mean, lag has variants anyway, so, like, is it worth doing all that, which we might only be able to do some of it, or even just, like, the load screens? Is it really worth it just to, like, preserve lag when we could just switch the hard drive? But then, hard drive has its own downsides, and it technically has its own variants, and, it's just luck of the draw. I mean, it's luck of the draw anyway, but technically it's not... In terms of how bad the issue is, it'd be to a lesser extent on hard drive, but it would be to a bigger extent in the sense of, like, obviously, if you're looking to buy a disc, like an OG Xbox now, just for disc drives, I mean, avoid 2001, 2002, maybe even 2003, pretty fucking obvious there. But with this, you could just buy any of them and you just get terrible loads. You buy another one, get terrible loads, buy another one, get well, not terrible, but, just non-world record loads, which really suck. But yeah, is it worth doing all that? Can we even do it? And if we can, would it just be worth switching the hard drive at that point when we have to anyway, and eventually, and hard drive has its own benefits? But then hard drive removes lag, and it still doesn't fully fix the problem. And disk drives are mostly fine right now, even if not great. So is this even an issue right now? Honestly, not really. Do we need to... loadless right now? Not really. Would we need it in, like, several years' time? Yeah, probably, but by then, I'd probably be switching to hard drive. But again, preserving lag, but then, like, is it worth it, and all that stuff, so... I guess let me know what you think, because I've ran out of stuff to say. Alright, thank you, and goodbye.